In today's video, I want to talk about hot rodding a mobile DJ system. I will be making car analogies in this video, but don't let that freak you out if you don't know anything about cars. I think it will all make sense to you. I've been thinking about doing this video for a long time, but instead I went ahead and made a Facebook post and did a write-up. I'm a more eloquent writer than I am just a guy who riffs when I speak, because I don't script any of my videos. I'm glad I did it that way because I got some really good feedback that I think contributes very well to this video. By the way, this video is brought to you by Hollywood DJ, located on 11th Street in Los Angeles, California. Check them out for any of your DJ related needs. If you want to hot rod your system, they've got what you need. Look at their website, or alternately give them a call. Talk to my pal Alan. He's a good guy. He will hook you up. Thank you, Hollywood DJ, for being one of our channel sponsors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you what I wrote. And I might pause here and there to give a little more explanation. Then we'll dive into the comments because there's some good stuff. And I'm really glad that people made some comments so I could address them. So here it is. If I were to think of a DJ system like I do a car, the first step would be to select the right vehicle. Most hot rodders agree you select and build the vehicle to work really well however you plan on using it 90% of the time. You don't build a car for drag racing if most of the time you plan on just taking the kids out for ice cream on weekends. Overbuilding and underbuilding never produces a satisfying result. The fuel you run in this car might be like the music files you use. Wave could be like racing fuel, where 320k MP3 could be like standard gas station 89 octane pump fuel with ethanol. Low bit rate files might be like bad gas with water or particles floating around in them. Maybe carburetor selection is like the mixer controller you choose. A carb distributes fuel to the engine like a mixer distributes an audio signal to your powered speakers. It's also very important to tune your carburetor with the best air-fuel mixture so it runs right, just like it's very important to set up your mixer's gain structure so your system sounds right. The rest of your powertrain on your car could be like the powered speakers you choose. If everything is in harmony with the car, it runs great, just like when everything is set up and tuned right on a DJ system. Then there's cosmetics. Some car guys focus more on making their car shiny than they do about how it runs and drives. Others don't care as much about how shiny it is and just want it to run and drive right. Others are able to balance both. And then I just say, don't know, just dumb stuff I think about on quiet Sunday afternoons. Maybe this is a video. About that last part with the cosmetics, there are a lot of DJs who are really concerned with things like cable management and symmetry. Balancing out, you got to have two of everything to have on each side of your system. And just maybe peacocking, trying to make a system look bigger than it is. They're really concerned with appearance. Sometimes they're not always as concerned with how the system performs. But then others, maybe like me sometimes, it's not so much about what it looks like, it's about what it sounds like and how it functions. And then some people, do a really good balance of both, of hiding those cables, doing good cable management, good symmetry, just a really nice presentation, and it sounds great. I'd like to be that person, and I really try to be. I think my setup looks okay. Generally, my setups look okay. Sometimes I could have done something a little different, I guess, but you know what? It's most important that it functions right. More important than it functions right than it looks right. An example of that would be sometimes when you put a subwoofer and then on either side of you and then stick a pole out of the sub and put your top on top of that, the symmetry looks great, but really it's probably going to function better if you couple your subs in the middle. You're going to get a 3 dB gain. It's going to sound a little better than the symmetry thing. It might not look as cool, but it sounds better. And just an example. Anyway, let's dive into some of these comments because they were good. They were really good. And before I go any further, guys, by the way, this is life according to me. This is not gospel. They're just some thoughts, and you don't have to agree with me on this stuff. You can totally disagree with me and we're still friends. And these folks aren't necessarily disagreeing with me either. They're just giving their input. And I'm trying to maybe explain a little further than I did, in my little essay I wrote. First comment comes from Matt Cotter. He says, I've never had a problem with 192 bit rate. And here's my real answer to that. And this is no BS. Again, according to me. The better the file, the better your system will sound. What I can tell you is that the smaller your audio system is, the more forgiving it will be for the lower bitrate files. A radical example would be that something like 192 kilobyte MP3 probably sounds just fine on a personal listening device like an iPod with earbuds. That same file will be noticeably noisy and muddy through something like a club system. That's my explanation on that. Yeah, some of you are not having a problem with your lower bitrate files, or you don't think you're having a problem with your lower bitrate files, but the truth is, it's always going to sound better with a better file. It's going to be more noticeable in bigger systems than it is smaller systems, like scary noticeable in a big system, like a club system, or a big PA, or at a concert or a festival, than it does maybe on a smaller system. But nevertheless, it's always going to sound better when you run better files. It's like the fuel in your car, like I was saying in the essay I wrote. Tony Fernandez writes, the car analogy works well for DJ/sound reinforcement applications. I'll just add, overbuilding a sound system is a good thing. Thumbs up. And my reply to Tony is, and I guess, there are times when you can overbuild and that's fine, but other times it just gets too much. Here's my radical explanation in answer to Tony. No, it is not. That's why we don't bring giant bass boss PA systems to 100-person wedding receptions. I mean, that's a radical example, but that's where overbuilding is a little weird. I've seen people use too aggressive speakers at the events they do, and they're chasing their audience out of the room because it's just too loud. It's painful. I've seen people use lights that are really set up to light up a band or something, lighting up the audience where there's bright lights in their eyes and such, and that's not cool. But that's another video, probably. I didn't get into lighting on this one too much. But anyway, that's my explanation there. Tony says, well, yeah, we don't need to overbuild to that degree. And then again, that was an extreme example, but... And Nate Clancy chimed in and said, some do overbuild. And my explanation to that is, yeah, they do. It does not mean they should. So I'm standing by this one. Again, according to me, you can disagree with me. That's fine. We're still friends if you do. Let's see. Here's another one I wanted to read that I thought was pretty good. From DJ Mikey Mike. Not Mike Sousa, a different Mikey Mike. He says, great analogy. Build it right the first time. Do it once and done. Sometimes car builders and DJs are afraid to ask questions and just assume what they're doing is right. The only problem with that is ask out of you and me. Assume. My reply to Mikey was this. It takes time sometimes. I built my car in stages over probably 5 years. And then I added, a person could build the best system they can afford, then make changes, upgrades, and improvements along the way. It's exactly how I did my car. And I think a lot of people do that with their DJ systems. They get the best stuff they can afford when they can afford it. And as money comes in, and as you learn things, and as you do the shakedown, which is what I do with a car. Like a shakedown is you build it, then you drive it, and you kind of suss out where your weak links are and what needs improvement, and you work on those things. It's the same thing with the DJ system. Maybe you build something, it's like, okay, well, this doesn't sound quite like I want it to. Is it the speakers? Is it the board? Is it my files? You go through everything, and you figure it out, and you make your changes and tweaks. Maybe it's just a settings thing. And that's another thing. When you are building a system, and you've done your best, and you know it's not the best stuff, but you're working with what you've got, it's so important to tune it the best you can. And one of the first things that you can do to make it sound good is use a good file. So good files are important. Then it's gain structure on that mixing board. Get that gain structure right. Follow that Ohm's law, that 0 dB rule. And then set up your powered speakers right. I mean, there's settings on a lot of these things. Make the settings where they should be. Don't overdrive your speakers. And I try to make videos to help on that. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, dive in a little bit. I've got videos on gain structure. I've got videos on setting up powered speakers, all kinds of stuff. The other thing I will mention that I didn't say anything about here, hot rodders are big sometimes into weight reduction, especially those who want to go really fast. So what is that? That's making the car as light as possible. Sometimes it's a matter of doing things like alloy wheels. Sometimes they take the sound deadening off of a car or the undercoating. Sometimes they're swapping out engine parts that are cast, and they're putting in aluminum stuff that weighs much less. It's a performance thing. It's also a weight thing. I do that. I do a lot of weight reduction on my DJ systems simply because, again, and I hate to keep bringing it up, but I'm a disabled guy. I got one functioning arm to work with. I want this as streamlined and as light as possible, but as efficient as possible. And a lot of that is weight reduction. And that's looking at things like cases and the speakers I choose and the amount of spares that I bring, all of that stuff. And the lighting systems I choose. It's all about weight reduction. For me, that's another thing that you can do as a hot rodder, and I do it with my DJ systems too. So anyway, just some random thoughts for a Monday. We've got equipment that I just got in. It just came. I'm going to do video on. It's cool stuff, and I don't even know if it has a name yet. I got to look at it, and I got to talk to the gentleman who sent it to me to find out. But it's cool stuff that you guys, especially you mobile guys, might want to have a look at. Anyway, stay tuned for that. Come in real soon. Tonight, tomorrow, something like that. Until then, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys for tuning in so much. Thank you. And I love your comments and your likes and all that kind of good stuff too. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Practice and enjoy.